Resilience, loud, confident, unshakable. In medicine, resilience is often pictured as perfection, calm under pressure, always composed, always prepared. We're trained to believe that competence means you have to be perfect, and that mistakes are something to be hidden, feared, or even corrected quietly. And yet, that version of resilience barely survives reality. Because perfection is an illusion. We all fall short, we all struggle, and under the weight of expectation, many of us may begin to wonder, am I even strong enough for this profession? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pearla Awad. Today, I want to talk to you about something that we all depend on, but rarely understand how to build. For a long time, I believed that resilience came from preparation, doing things right, staying in control. But that belief quickly changed as I traveled from Canada to Upper Egypt last summer. I was there to volunteer with orphan children in underprivileged communities, teaching them things like English, fundamental lessons of self-care, and habits that will help protect their health. I was ready. I had my lesson plans, I had my goals, and I had that quiet confidence you feel when you know you're about to help someone else. The classroom, however, had other plans for me. It was small, the walls were cracked, and the heat was unbearable. Yet every morning, the kids showed up, smiling and so eager to learn, their laughter bouncing off of every wall. At first, I just thought it was the joy of childhood, but I then quickly realized that it was something much deeper. These children had endured much more loss than many adults ever will. Yet every day, they showed up, smiling and helping one another, approaching each day with curiosity that was honestly quite humbling. There was one boy in my class who stood out to me. He was no older than 8, was the first to arrive, had the biggest smile. He was the kind of boy whose presence lifted others without much effort. One day, I learned the quiet truth that changed the way I saw him. His father had just died a couple of years earlier. Not by illness or by accident, but by taking his own life. A single moment of despair had left a permanent absence, one that followed this boy into every classroom, every milestone, and every ordinary day that should have included a father's voice. I stood stunned, unable to process. How can such a joyful boy carry such a heavy burden? I searched for the grief that I thought I'd recognize, but it wasn't there. He didn't withdraw, he didn't harden, and he certainly didn't stop showing up. I let that realization sit with me, and in that silence, I realized something. Resilience isn't about being unbreakable, and it's not about ignoring your pains. As I watched these children for the next 3 weeks, I noticed that their resilience wasn't one big heroic act, rather, a series of small intentional choices. To remember what they taught me, I created my acronym, STRONG. S, seek solutions. Even when resources were limited, the kids were very quick to identify what they could and what they couldn't control. There was one day when the classroom fan stopped working, and being from Canada, I couldn't tolerate the heat. The kids noticed this and were giggling between themselves because this was just a normal day for them. While they were all coloring, I noticed that one of my students had taken a piece of paper, folded it into a little hand fan, stood beside me, and was fanning me. No complaints, no frustrations. Just a solution to help someone else. T, take action, even small steps. Resilience isn't about waiting for things to get better on their own. It's about choosing to do something, no matter how small. Remember when I mentioned the cracked walls? Well, the kids noticed them too. And while it wasn't stopping them from learning, they still wanted to try to find a way to fix it. So one day, they walked into class with balloons, stickers, colors, and while they didn't repair the wall, they decorated it, covering the cracks, making the room feel brand new. R, recover from setbacks. Mistakes or challenges didn't discourage or define them. They got up, adapted, and tried again. They were all orphans, yet every morning they showed up, smiling, full of energy, refusing to let their grief set them back. Oh, open-minded to learning. They were curious, eager, and willing to embrace new knowledge and change. English was hard for many of them. Words felt unfamiliar, pronunciation felt awkward. Sometimes they got embarrassed. But despite this, they helped one another. They laughed through their mistakes and tried to say words again and again until they got them right. They treated discomfort as a part of learning. N, never give up. One day, some kids gifted me some candies, and another boy seeing this wanted to gift me something too, but he had none. Still, he didn't give up, came to me the next day and said, "Miss Lulu, I didn't have candies, but I got you these flowers. Do you like flowers?" Even with so little, he found a way to never give up. G, grow through challenges. One day, the gate leading to the classroom automatically locked, so we were stuck outside. While another teacher went to go get the key, one child quietly disappeared. Before anyone even noticed that he was gone, he reappeared behind the gate, having found his way around it and opening it to the rest of us. To him, it wasn't a problem. It was a puzzle, a challenge he wanted to overcome. He showed me that challenges aren't walls. They're opportunities to grow, to think differently, and to try something new. STRONG wasn't an acronym that they just recited. They didn't have to. This is how they lived their everyday lives. Together, they showed me that resilience isn't always loud, and it's not always dramatic, but it's built quietly in paper fans, decorated walls, repeated words, and decisions to try again. That's what being strong looked like to me. So what do we do with this? Realistically, most of us aren't standing in a classroom in Upper Egypt. We're standing in lecture halls, workplaces, hospital wards, relationships, moments of uncertainty, often wondering, am I strong enough? Here's the part that I want to be very clear about, because I don't think medicine says this enough. We will all fall, we will all struggle, we will all doubt ourselves and make mistakes. We will all have days where showing up feels harder than it should. So why does medicine make us feel like when we fall, we've automatically failed, when this is a part of being human? What defines us isn't whether we fall, it's what we decide to do afterwards. See, failure is a part of growth. Medicine demands growth. And yet when we fall, we're taught to feel ashamed. I carried this contradiction with me until those kids showed me that there's another way to deal with failure, through resilience. Resilience isn't just something you wait for. It's something that you practice, often when you least feel like it. Being resilient doesn't mean you have to fix everything at once. Sometimes it's simply asking yourself, what's one thing I can control right now? Maybe it's sending that one email. Or maybe it's showing up when you feel a little underprepared. Resilience also doesn't ask you to ignore your pains. Those kids felt pain. They felt grief, they felt frustration, they felt fear, but they didn't let those feelings stop them from trying. So when things don't go your way, when you fail an exam, when you don't get the job you want, or when you just feel stuck, resilience doesn't ask you to be unshaken. It asks you to recover, to learn, and to adapt. Most importantly, resilience is not about doing it alone. These kids helped one another constantly, sharing colors, encouraging each other, celebrating small achievements. Asking for help is not a weakness. Think of it as your strategy to becoming resilient. So if there's one thing I hope you take with you today, it's this. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need to feel confident. You just need to keep choosing small, intentional actions that will help you grow. Because strength isn't always built in grand moments. Sometimes it's built in ordinary, uncomfortable, everyday choices to keep going. So when life feels overwhelming, when the cracks start to show, think of the paper fans, the decorated walls, and the repeated words. Ask yourself the same question that those kids answered. How can I choose to be strong today? Thank you.